If your money keeps disappearing, it may not be because you are bad with money. You may be working inside a month that got more expensive while your rate stayed the same. That is the weird part. The client pays you, the invoice clears. Your bank app looks happy for about 12 minutes, and then rent, food, tools, tax, debt, and one tiny emergency all walk in like they had a meeting without you. By the end of this video, you will see where the money went before you blame your discipline, your coffee, or your personality. Here is the problem most generic money advice misses. Freelance income does not arrive like a calm office paycheck. It arrives in chunks. One week you feel rich because 2 clients paid on the same day. The next week you are staring at a grocery total like the cashier accidentally scanned your childhood dreams. So when prices move, freelancers feel it in a strange way. The bill comes every month, but the income does not always show up in matching pieces. That mismatch is where the panic starts. The April 2026 numbers explain why this feels louder right now. The Bureau of Labor Statistics reported that CPI-U rose 0.6% in April and 3.8% over the prior year. That is not just a headline for economists wearing serious glasses. It means the normal month got heavier. In the same release, food rose 0.5% in April and energy rose 3.8%. So if your old rate was built around last year's life, it may be trying to pay this year's bills with old math. And the squeeze was not only in prices. BLS also reported that real average hourly earnings fell 0.5% from March to April 2026. Real earnings means pay after inflation is considered. For a salaried worker, that can feel like the paycheck lost a little strength. For a freelancer, it can feel like every project has to stretch further before you even touch profit. That is why you can be busy, booked, and still feel like your money is leaving through a side door. Now, before we build the fix, we have to name the trap. Freelancers often treat one client deposit as one pile of money. The bank app shows one number, so your brain says, nice, I got paid. But that one number is actually several smaller jobs wearing the same outfit. Some of it has to cover rent and food. Some of it has to cover software, ads, equipment, transaction fees, and work time you forgot to bill. Some of it belongs in a tax reserve. Some of it has to protect future you from a slow week. Only what is left after those jobs is real owner pay. Imagine a freelance designer named Tessa. She sends a $2,000 invoice for a project that took longer than expected, because of course it did. The client pays. Tessa opens the bank app and sees the deposit land. For one beautiful second, the month looks solved. But then the money starts getting assigned. Rent needs $900. Food and household basics need $450. Software and subscriptions need $160. A credit card minimum needs $120. The tax reserve should get $500 if she wants the future to be less rude. Suddenly, that $2,000 payment is not $2,000 of freedom. It is a crowded room. This is why the phrase "I made good money this month" can be misleading. Good compared with what? Good compared with the invoice amount, sure. Good compared with the actual month, maybe not. The month does not care that the project sounded impressive. It cares whether the deposit can cover the bills that happen on schedule, the tax that happens later, and the business costs that make the next job possible. If you skip that separation, you do not really have cash flow. You have one pile of money trying to play 6 positions. This is where inflation hits freelancers differently. A steady paycheck worker still has pressure, but at least the timing is more predictable. They can see the check, build a monthly rhythm, and adjust slowly. A freelancer has to absorb price changes while also handling uneven payments. If food, energy, and rent move up in the same season that a client pays 2 weeks late, the freelancer does not experience that as a neat percentage. They experience it as a Tuesday where the card balance looks too confident. So the first cash fix is not a fancy app. It is not a 12-tab spreadsheet named something heroic. The first fix is to stop asking one bank balance to tell you the truth by itself. Your balance can tell you how much cash is there. It cannot tell you how much of that cash is safe to spend. For that, you need buckets. Not cute buckets, practical buckets. Bills, tax, tools, debt, savings, and owner pay. When the deposit lands, the first question is not, "What can I buy?" The first question is, "What jobs did this money already have before I touched it?" Let us go back to Tessa's $2,000 and split it properly. First, she protects the tax part. Maybe she sets aside 25%, which is $500. That is not personal tax advice. It is an example of a reserve so tax season does not arrive like a plot twist. Next, she sets aside the direct business cost of the job, maybe $150 for software, payment fees, and assets. Then she covers the bill money that this invoice was supposed to support. Only after that does she count owner pay. The important part is not the exact percentage. The important part is the order. Order matters because your brain is very good at renaming money. If the whole invoice sits in checking, your brain may call it available. Then groceries, dinner, a tool upgrade, and a tiny celebratory purchase all feel harmless. But if the tax portion moves first, it stops pretending to be spending money. If the tool portion moves second, the next project is protected. If the bill portion has its own place, rent does not have to compete with a plug-in subscription at midnight. You are not being strict for fun. You are reducing confusion. Here is the annoying part. Many freelancers only look for the leak after they feel broke. They wait until the account is low, then scroll backward through transactions like a financial detective with no sleep. That is painful because by then the money has already been spent, and the only thing left is shame. A cash map works the other direction. It tells the money where to go when it arrives, so you do not have to reconstruct the crime scene later. The map can be simple. Start with your monthly survival number. That includes rent or housing, food, utilities, transportation, insurance, minimum debt payments, and the basic costs of staying alive and able to work. Then add your business floor. Software, internet, phone, payment fees, subcontractors, ads, equipment replacement, and any tool you actually need. Then add tax reserve. Then add a small buffer for late clients because some clients treat due dates like decorative suggestions. After that, you can talk about owner pay and savings. Once you write that number down, a strange thing happens. You stop asking whether a project sounds good and start asking whether it carries enough weight. A $500 project might feel easy, but if it takes 3 days, uses paid tools, creates tax, and pushes another invoice into next week, it may not be easy money. It may be a tiny cash flow trap wearing a nice email. This is not about becoming greedy. It is about making sure the work funds the life and the business that make the work possible. This is also where pricing gets less emotional. If your monthly floor is $4,000 and you realistically have 80 billable hours, then your baseline hourly math is not $25 because that sounds friendly. It is at least $50 before profit, slow weeks, taxes, admin time, and unbilled communication. If that number makes you uncomfortable, good. Discomfort is better than pretending a low rate is generous. When it is actually making future, you borrow from a credit card. Now, the goal is not to panic every time CPI moves. You are not supposed to rebuild your whole rate card every Tuesday. The goal is to review your cash floor when the world changes enough that your old number stops working. April 2026 gave freelancers a useful warning. Food, energy, and overall prices moved, while real hourly earnings fell for the month. That does not automatically mean every creator must raise rates tomorrow. It does mean old quotes deserve a fresh look before you copy and paste them into the next proposal. A good way to test this is the one-invoice stress test. Take your last paid invoice and split it on paper. First, write the gross amount. Then subtract estimated tax reserve. Then subtract direct project costs. Then subtract the part needed for monthly essentials. Then subtract debt minimums and savings goals. Whatever is left is the true flexible money. If that number shocks you, do not ignore it. That shock is useful. It is the moment your business stops sounding impressive and starts showing you the actual math. This test also protects you from the busy but broke cycle. Busy can feel productive because the calendar is full, but a full calendar with underpriced work is not safety. It is just a crowded schedule with better lighting. If every project pays a little too little, you do not notice the leak on day one. You notice it at the end of the month when you worked hard, answered everyone, delivered everything, and still do not have enough margin to breathe. That is not a character flaw. That is a pricing and cash flow design problem. So what do you do before the next client quote? You build the quote from the bottom up. Start with the real cost of the month. Add business costs that the job will use. Add tax reserve. Add a late payment cushion if the client pays after delivery. Add profit, because a business without profit is just an expensive hobby with invoices. Then decide whether the project still makes sense. The client does not need to see every line of your private cash map, but you need to see it before you decide what to charge. This is where people get nervous because they think raising a price means becoming difficult. But charging a rate that keeps the business alive is not an insult to the client. It is how the client gets a stable provider who can actually keep showing up. Underpricing can feel nice at the start, but it often turns into rushed work, resentment, delayed replies, and panic when bills hit. A clean rate with a real cushion is calmer for everyone. You are not charging for vibes. You are charging for work, time, risk, tools, taxes, and the ability to do the job without secretly falling apart. There is one more part of disappearing money that nobody enjoys admitting. Sometimes the leak is not the rate. Sometimes it is the upgrade after the invoice lands. A big deposit can make your brain act like every month will be that good. So you add one subscription, replace one device, order one nice thing, and tell yourself it is fine because the client paid. Sometimes it is fine. But if the spending becomes permanent and the client payment was temporary, you just gave one invoice a job it cannot keep. The fix is not to remove every fun purchase and become the sort of person who whispers at spreadsheets. The fix is to make fun money the last bucket, not the first emotional reaction. Pay tax reserve, protect essentials, cover tools, handle debt minimums, add a little buffer, then spend from what is actually yours. That way, enjoying money does not turn into apologizing to your future self in 3 weeks. There are 3 warning signs that your cash map needs attention. The first sign is that you keep copying the same rate into proposals because it used to work. A rate can be familiar and still be wrong. If the client brief got bigger, the tool stack got pricier, or the grocery bill moved up, the old number may be doing unpaid labor in the background. You do not need to panic. You do need to check whether that old rate still covers the real month you live in. The second warning sign is that business costs keep hiding inside personal spending. For example, you might pay for a design tool, a stock asset, a faster internet plan, and a payment fee from the same account that buys groceries. None of those costs are fake, but if you never separate them, they look like random spending instead of the cost of delivering the work. Once you name them, the business stops quietly borrowing from your personal life. The third warning sign is that a late client instantly becomes a personal emergency. If one delayed invoice forces you to use a credit card for basics, the issue is not just the client being annoying. The issue is that your cash system has no timing protection. A late payment buffer is not a luxury. It is the gap between a normal client delay and a month that starts charging interest. Even a small buffer can turn panic into an admin problem. This is why the cash map should live somewhere you can actually see it. A hidden spreadsheet is better than nothing, but a simple note works too. Write your monthly survival number. Write your business floor. Write the tax reserve rule you are using. Write the minimum buffer you want before spending extra money. Then, when a deposit lands, you are not negotiating with your mood. You are following a map you made while calm. Calm you is usually better with money than freshly paid you. The map also helps you talk to clients without sounding panicked. If your numbers show that a project needs a higher quote, you do not have to explain your rent, your groceries, and your entire emotional history. You can simply quote the project properly. You can say the scope requires this fee, the timeline requires a deposit, or extra revisions are billed separately. Clear numbers make you less reactive. They let you protect the business without turning every client conversation into a dramatic monologue. And if a client cannot afford the real number, that is useful information. It does not make them evil, and it does not make you greedy. It means the project may not fit the business you are trying to keep alive. Some work is worth doing for strategy, relationships, practice, or a cause you care about. But you should choose that on purpose. What hurts is accidentally discounting every project and then wondering why your calendar is full but your account still looks tired. A cash map will not make every month perfect, Freelance life still has weird timing, quiet weeks, surprise expenses, and clients who remember your invoice only after you send the kindest possible reminder. But the map gives you a first move. Instead of asking, "Why am I bad with money?" you ask, "Which bucket was underfunded? Was the quote too low? Did tax stay in checking too long? Did a tool cost sneak in? Did a late client expose a missing buffer?" Those are fixable questions. Shame is not a system. For the next 7 days, do one small audit. Take the last invoice that landed and split it as if it were arriving today. Tax reserve first. Direct project costs second. Monthly essentials third. Debt and savings fourth. Owner pay after that. If the owner pay number is smaller than expected, do not treat that as failure. Treat it as evidence. Evidence helps you fix the next quote before the next month has a chance to surprise you. One more detail makes the whole system easier to keep. Separate timing problems from income problems. If your rate is strong but clients pay late, you need deposits, milestones, and a buffer. If clients pay on time but the money still disappears, you need to revisit the cash floor and the quote. Those are different problems, so do not solve them with the same panic. A cash map shows which one you are facing. That matters because a late payment problem needs better terms, while an underpriced work problem needs better pricing. It also keeps you from pulling the wrong lever when you are already stressed right now. Let us bring it all together. If money keeps disappearing, start with a cash map, not shame. BLS reported prices rose in April, food and energy rose too, and real average hourly earnings fell for the month. Those facts do not personally accuse you of anything. They simply explain why old freelance math may feel weaker now. Your job is to turn one messy deposit into clear jobs: bills, tax, tools, debt, savings, and owner pay. When every dollar has a job before you spend it, the month becomes less mysterious. Part 1 was the diagnosis. The money is not vanishing, it is being asked to cover too many jobs without a map. Part 2 is where we fix the invoice before it lands. We are going to build the cushion that sits inside the quote, so taxes, tools, late clients, and owner pay are not fighting over the same deposit after the fact. If your last invoice looked good but still left you stressed, Part 2 is the one you need next.